And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. You're tuned in to Tapped Out. Hosted by Brendan Tobin and Sean Levine. Only on the BetQL network.
Up at the top of the next hour, I will fight Brendan, which is good because I've got a little bit of aggression to get out right now. So don't go anywhere. Coming up top of the next hour, I lace him up with my co-host and we go at it. Then we break down all the UFC 289 odds. And before we get out of here, I'm in Kansas City, but BT is down in Miami, which obviously I would say is the sports, I don't want to say capital of the world right now, but it's pretty damn close to it. I mean, y'all did have 2 of the 4 Final Four teams and half the teams in the Stanley Cup Finals and half the teams in the NBA Finals. We'll see what happens. Not a bad baseball team. We'll see. Do you think this means the Dolphins are going to be good? Does this add added pressure to the Miami Dolphins to actually be good this year with all this South Beach success?
I 100% believe it adds a lot of pressure to the Dolphins, especially with Mike McDaniel hobnobbing at all these events. He's courtside for the Heat. He's banging the Panthers drums. So, yeah, if you're Mike McDaniel, who has a very high approval rate right now, don't lose the AFC East, dude. You got a lot of he has a lot of pressure on him. Plus, they had Jalen Ramsey. They paid like Vic Fangio $1 gazillion to run the defense. Yeah, they better be good this year.
I'm just glad he's banging the drum. I didn't know where you were going there. Thank goodness it's the drum. Brendan Tobin, Sports Machine, Sean Levine, having a unique show on a Saturday night. All right, so I did some math, which is, not my strong suit. I'm not that good at talking if we're being honest with ourselves. And it tells me that we're about 1 year away from UFC 300. And it's going to be a big, bad deal. The UFC always tries to make it right. So I had a little bit of fun with this. Couldn't sleep last night, prepping for the radio show, and I thought, if it's a 5-card main event, so we get 5 fights, what are 5 realistic fights that we could get that I think would make the best card? And I'm going to keep you out of this because you're going to start bringing in Mike Tyson, and you're going to start bringing in all these different dudes. Oh, all of a sudden Tyson Fury is going to come in, and he's going to fight an MMA match against Brock Lesnar. That's too much. I got 5 fights that I think could actually happen. I've got odds for them. Let's break it down. Here we go. First of all, Islam versus Volk 2. First time around, the odds were crazy in favor of Islam. Now that we actually saw the fight go down, I can't decide if I think that Islam is no longer invincible or maybe just that Volkanovski is that good and also his kryptonite. I don't know about you, but I would love to see that fight again. And I would also love to see both those guys take as much time off as possible before the fight. I think Islam would be the favorite coming in, but not like he was last time, like a minus 400. I think Islam's like a minus 150 and make it for his belt. That's the first fight. That's the one. That's the curtain jerker, as Chael Sonnen used to say, that kicks off UFC.
That's
300.
opening it. That's the curtain.
That's
jerker?
opening my
Wow.
card, dude. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I love it. I think it was a great fight. The only thing I'm worried about is Islam. Honestly, I feel like Islam's got a big. I feel like Islam. If you told me like who's going to be champ and still on top, like by UFC 300, I'm going Volk over Islam. And look, Volk's still got a big test with Yair coming up, but I don't know, man. I feel like Islam. I'm still not quite sure that he is like that untouchable, and I do feel like Volk exposed a lot of that. Exposed is the wrong word, but I guess just show that he's beatable. And I think that I still think that's a vulnerable fight. But yeah, I mean, as far as fights you can make today, like if UFC 300 was in a month, yeah, I mean, you're talking about 2 of the best pound for pound guys in the world. That'd be awesome.
It's about a year away. That's my opening fight. Islam versus Volk 2. I've got Islam as the favorite at minus.
What do you think the favorite would be? 150.
What do I think? What? Yeah, minus.
I was going to ask you. I was asking about the line
minus
again.
170 maybe. Nothing huge, nothing crazy.
I'm still
Second
betting on
fight.
Volk, dude.
Well, you have to. I mean, look, we both think you won the fight last time. All right, second fight. Moving on. Card has to continue. Fake card, that is. I got Khamzat Chimaev. And, dude, who knows if we see him before this? I don't know exactly what's going on. The whole reason that he gained his popularity was on Fight Island. All he did was fight, right? What was it, back-to-back cards or back-to-back weekends? And I think it was 3 fights in 3 months. And then we just haven't seen him in a long time. Khamzat Chimaev comes back versus You tell me, what's the bigger fight, Usman or Adesanya?
Adesanya is the bigger fight because Adesanya is the champ right now. So that's a bigger fight for me. If Usman got his belt back, I think that's, then it's kind of, but I just feel like stylistically, I feel like Israel Adesanya can really sell that with his hostility. I feel like he'd be brutal in leading up to a fight against Hamzat. I honestly feel like, that might be the main event. I mean, if you're telling me there's a better fight than that, I don't know what it is.
I got 3.
I mean, I would be stunned that you would have a bigger fight than Hamzat versus Stylebender. I feel like that's one of the biggest ones they can make right now, to be honest with you. Him versus Usman, look, it's a really good fight. It's a fun fight. Again, I always just come back to the confusion of I thought Hamzat wasn't a welterweight anymore, but I think stylistically, fun-wise, build-up, I think Izzy and Hamzat's one of the biggest ones they could do right now.
Do we agree that Adesanya is a favorite in the fight, but not much?
Oh, yeah.
Like a -150, -160, something like that?
I think he should be a pretty sizable favorite, dude. I mean, like, I don't know what, like, with Hamzat, it's like you said, I feel like I wish he was at the point in his career where he was fighting more so we'd have more answers about him. And the last thing that we got with him is I don't care about weight, and I fought Kevin Holland, who was a stylistic, like, buffet for me on a few days' notice. And so it's like, all right, I mean, like, maybe it was tougher than fighting Nate Diaz, but I just feel like for him, I just need to see it again from Hamzat. For me, I just think he needs to kind of put some more coals into the hype train.
All right. Well, I'm glad that tickled your fancy with the first 2 fights. I got 3 more from my dream card. Whenever UFC 300 comes around, by my math, about 1 year from now, Aljamain Sterling, still the champion, makes the walk, stands in the octagon, and looks the other way and sees a healthy, coming off of surgery, best friend, Merab the Machine Dvalishvili, and they decide, you know what, screw it. It's big enough. There's enough money offered. I've fought my friends multiple times, backyards, front yards, bars, frats. It happens. Then you hug afterwards. If you're also going to make multiple millions of dollars, get over the friendship. That's my 3rd fight that I want to see. And I think Aljamain Sterling is obviously going to be the favorite against his homeboy. Let's call it -150.
Don't like it. Don't like it. I like the fact that there's some honor amongst these teammates. Now, if you told me that Aljamain Sterling loses coming on up to Sean O'Malley in Boston and Merab and Sean O'Malley are going to fight, I'm into that.
Damn it, that's what I should have done. Damn it.
Merab's got to wear the Thriller jacket to the octagon. And that then doesn't and wears it all the way up until Bruce Buffer introduces him and then hands it to his teammates. That's what I want to see happen, to be honest with you. But I don't want to see him fight, man. I don't know. Like, some things are just genuinely beautiful. Merab, friend of the show, like, speaking to him, he's just like, he genuinely loves Aljamain Sterling. When we spoke to Funkmaster, like, those guys, I like that. I the idea that, and the fact that they would fight, be honest, Sean, how good a fight is that? Like, do you feel like that's a very aesthetically pleasing fight? I don't know. I feel like it's going to be kind of a grinded out fest for 5 rounds. I don't know if that's going to be a very exciting fight. Unless you told me there was some really bad stuff that happened between them.
Which obviously isn't going to, because as you mentioned, they're genuinely best friends and they're both really good guys. It's kind of like in Little League. If you were ever a batter and you faced your best friend as the pitcher, it's just weird. Just a weird feeling. Now, I guess that's maybe not the best example because that's like 7-year-old kids and, one of them's wearing a helmet and aluminum bats. The other guys are trying to kill each other as adults. I still want to see it happen. I do like what you're saying, though, is Aljo loses his strap to O'Malley, and then Merab has to fight O'Malley to get back the honor of Aljamain Sterling. Then can I get him to fight? Is it cool if they fight then? Okay. Then they
maybe. But that to me is the juicier one.
All right. Co-main event. We've got 2 fights left for my Dream 300 card. We're talking about John Jones and Stipe Miocic. You're talking about John Jones only loves the big fights, can't get up for the big ones. Let's just hold off on whatever's going on with Stipe right now and wait until 300. Doesn't that make the most sense? Because we're going to need John on that card, best fighter in the history of mixed martial arts. what other big name could possibly he go up against that's even somewhat realistic if it's not Stipe? So doesn't it feel like at this point you just wait for that one? And that's the co-main, by the way.
I get what you're saying, but it's like, really, we're not going to have John. See, in your scenario, does that mean John's not fighting until UFC
No.
300?
Let him beat up a guy or two in between. I mean, let's be honest, dude. He just fought Cyril Gane, and when you're talking about, I guess, name recognition, nobody knew who Cyril Gane was a year and a half ago. So there's not those names there. That's the problem. Tom Aspinall. I mean, who really gets you excited?
This is my jumping off point to, like you said, it was Cyril Gane. I feel like here's what the UFC should do for the next year. And the biggest, to me, maybe Aspinall can jump him, but to me, the biggest thing they should do over this next year is build up Pavlovich. Because, like, that guy's a monster. He can be your next Francis Ngannou. Like, there's no reason he can't be built up into the most terrifying thing that steps into an octagon. We've seen it. So you give him as many guys as you can that he can obliterate leading up to John Jones at UFC 300. I think that, to me, would be the way to go. John versus Stipe, you put him on that card whenever the hell they do it, November, and you have Sergey keep calling out John Jones, keep obliterating fools. Have him and Aspinall fight for the right to fight John Jones. But I feel like if I'm looking at people who have the most star potential to be scary killers, that guy seems like he's got the X factor to me right now, man.
All he's doing is knocking out guys in the first round. He is a scary Russian fella. And then the main event of UFC 300, I think Nate Diaz comes back. I think that he's going to box against Jake Paul and then probably come back pretty soon. Figures it's not like it was a bad ending to the relationship. It was just over. The contract was up. And I think Nate comes back. I think Conor beats Chandler, as Clint McLean was saying, through very, very bad audio connection. And I think that we get that one. I think that's your main event for UFC 300. We've been talking about that since the day that we saw them fight the second time.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, if Conor's going to stick around, and especially after this whole Chandler, like, that one makes the most sense. It feels like, and honestly, he does that. Both of them do that, and then they retire. I don't think that they should even fight after that, but feels like the natural conclusion. The biggest rivalry, one of the biggest rivalries UFC's ever had. They got to get that done.
You know who's fighting coming up next? Me and you, right here on the BetQL Network.